I spent the last 30 days learning game development, and these are the 10 tips that helped me get through these 30 days. I hope it helps you. Starting with the game engine, I'm not going to spend too much time on this because a lot of people talk about this, but one thing I didn't know getting into game development is that game engines are for the most part free. I wanted to pull up this picture. It gives you a good idea of what the main three game engines and what they consist of and how they differ from each other. But Unreal, Unity, and Godot are all free. Now, there are some caveats to that, but for the most part, you're never going to have to spend any money on a game engine, which is super cool. Tip number 9, scripts and what they can look like. I think this is something super important. When I thought about scripts, when I knew what I knew about scripts when I first got started into game development, I always thought a script was like you have a player object, like a player character, you make a script for movement, for instance, you attach that to the player character, and now that player can move. And that is true to an extent, but at the basic level, that is true. But there's a lot more that goes into scripts, and I learned in the last 30 days that I thought was just super cool that I thought I would share with you. Scripts are not only things that you attach to objects and they do certain things. There are static scripts that work in conjunction with other scripts. There are scriptable objects, and that's one of the things I wanted to talk about today. So as you can see in the project in the window, I'm trying to add an item, and there's some new items like encounters, acts, and items. And so these are scripts that I made for my game to specifically add specific things. So right now I'm adding a new item to my game. So in my sandwich stacker game, I want to add about 100 different base items, and that can take a long time. But with this script I've made that has made these items scriptable objects, I can go ahead and add the item name, the item effects. Are they a good item? Are they a bad item? Does it destroy my sandwich? All the different types of things I want to do, and that makes adding 100 items to the game no problem. So this was something that really blew my mind, something that I thought was extremely cool, and can really add a lot to your game. I mean, in my sandwich stacker game, I think I've got 5 or 6 scriptable objects: my encounters, my acts, my items, my enemies, and a few others. So really cool tool just to add a lot of things to your game really quick. And this is an example. I wanted to show you my first game, guys. This is what my first game. How many scripts I've got? Maybe 12 scripts in there, and it was overwhelming. It felt like a lot. I didn't really know what was going on, you can even see there's that big red text at the bottom of the screen, which means there's compiler errors. That means that the scripts aren't working together. So in this one I had no scriptable objects. I think I added something that made it had some scriptable objects, but it can just go to show you how in how far along you can come in just even 30 days. But my game that I'm working on now, my sandwich stacker, I think I've got upwards of 30 odd scripts, and they're all working together. There's some are scriptable objects, and as you can see, I have all these different items in the game, bacon, tomato, that all have different effects and damage types, and I was able to easily and quickly add these to my game and get them implemented to my game right away. So scripts aren't just something you attach to an object and they work right away. They do a lot more than that, and I thought was really cool. All right, tip number 8, setting up your layout. And I know this one sounds like a really simple tip, but I think it's super important and something I didn't really apply to myself until day 15, day 20 of my journey. And gosh, did I wish I learned it sooner and applied it sooner, just because this can absolutely astronomically decrease or increase the amount of time your project takes just by how your layout is set up. Having a bad layout and having to constantly look for things and move things around and adjust your screen sizes is just going to absolutely not work, and there's going to be an annoyance factor to it too. So this is the default layout that Unity gives you as you get started, and it's okay. It works for some things, but I did make a layout that worked a little bit better for me. I wanted my game screen and my scene screen to be a little bit bigger. I wanted my hierarchy to be on the right side next to my inspector window. My inspector window stayed on that side, but it's about the same size. So again, this is all preference and all comfortability to you, but at the end of the day, You should make something that's solid, something that's going to be able to make you work quick, and something that's going to feel good, so you don't get annoyed with the having to move things around and adjust. But again, as you can see, having this default layout, it makes it easy to move things around the scene, have a big inspector window. So this is probably good for if you're adjusting, if you're actively testing your game and making active adjustments. So that's why it's probably under the default. Other uses though that could be super important when it comes to setting up your layout is, let's just say you're working on animations. Let's say you're not necessarily testing your game out right now. You're just strictly working on animations, trying to get those set up. Well, you can set up a strict animation layout where it just shows your animator controller, and maybe if you want your project window in there, so you can add things in and out, whatever it may be. But as you can see, I'm kind of going through the different layouts, and these are the ones that Unity automatically gives you. And I'm not exactly sure what the uses are for all of them, but I'm sure there's a good use for all of them, and can be applied to a number of situations. But as you can see, you can go ahead and set your layout to whatever you like, and then save it. Save your layout. You can edit layouts, you can delete layouts, and that's just such a cool feature that Unity has. And again, I know it seems super small, super simple, but it's super important to making sure your project is efficient, making sure you can move quick on your project, and it turns out really, really well, and you're not getting annoyed and not getting frustrated. Again, I spent my first 10, 15, 20 days just solely using the default layout, and although it wasn't terrible, there were times it was extremely frustrating. And so this layout right here is my typical layout that I use, and as you can see, you can have the game scene, you can have the scene, and now I'm jumping into the animation window. So right now, let's say if I just want to use, for that example, this animator as my layout. So I'll name it animator, go ahead and save that, and anytime I want to come to this animation layout, it's right there in that top right corner. Can select it, go back to my main scene or my main layout if I need to. Go right back to my animations layout. Boom, boom, boom. So super important, super simple, I know, but definitely use it. Tip number 7, stick to what you like. I think this one is super important, you guys. I got super overwhelmed when I first started developing games because there is a lot that goes into making a game. Not only is there the coding and developing of a game, but there's art, there's sound, there's animations, there's UI, you name it. There's a million things that go into a game, and the chances of you being great at everything is slim to none. Trust me, learn it for myself. And so, game development tools are already so in depth as it is, and so trying to learn some of these other tools like Sprite, which is a 2D sprite maker, or Blender, which is making 3D assets. As you can see, like, look at Blender, look at all these different tabs that go into it. I have no idea what they do. It's such a powerful tool, and trying to understand it and being proficient at it and being great at it is going to take years, as some people have seen. So stick to what you know. Don't be hard on yourself. You don't have to learn everything right at once. And me, I've never been great at art. I've never been that great as an art mind, and so I'm not going to lean into that. I've talked to a lot of devs about this, and they said stick to what you like, stick to what you know, and lean into it. Don't force the things you're bad at. Get help in those avenues, and it's really sound advice. So I hope this helps. Tip number 6, put yourself out there. Now I know this might be hard for a lot of people. I'm pretty extroverted, so I have an easy time of just putting myself out there. But I will say, getting started in game development, I am not the best at making games, so it has been hard having people give feedback and look at my games and give me their honest opinion and tell me if they like it or not. It's hard to be vulnerable like that. But you need to do it, and there's so many resources. You don't have to be loud. There's Discord servers that you can join. There is YouTube. There's Twitch. There's itch.io and game jams that are constantly always going on. So it's really important to put yourself out there. It's really important to get feedback and get help from others that have been doing it longer for you. Take it from me. I've only been doing it for 30 days, but this community has been so welcoming, and I am just so blessed that I jumped in, and I'm so glad I took the plunge. So be vulnerable, Get uncomfortable, put yourself out there, meet some people, get better at game development. Tip number 5, take the dive. I promise I didn't plan that. Oh my gosh, that sounded just so stupid. Anyways, when you get started in any game engine, you're gonna have to follow tutorials, and that's just a must. You got to get going. You follow tutorials. Now, tutorials are great, but you can fall into a trap. So as I got started using Unity, and I started with their pathways and the Unity essentials, as most people do, it was great. I learned how to make 3D games, how to make 2D games, of course at its basic level, audio essentials, how to get players moving and scripting. It was really great to get you a good foundation. But the problem, this is just an example, it tells you exactly step by step what you need to do. So are you actually really retaining what you're learning, or are you just following a document and making things work, right? So that's where you have to really take the dive. Start with tutorials, take it step by step, try to retain what you learned, and even try to do the additional steps, because typically in the additional steps they don't provide you on how to do it. See if you can figure it out yourself, right? Test yourself, give yourself some homework, and then you gotta jump into your own project, right? So, this is my sandwich stacker game, but just to give you an example, I'll create a new scene, right? And then from there, and this is just an example of, okay, I'm creating a new game, I'm getting started. So let's Okay, so now we got our new scene, or our new game as we'd call it. So how do we get started? Well, I want to make a new player character. So let's create a game object. We'll name him player. All right, I got to get this player to move. How do I do that? Well, I remember I got to create a script for that. So let's go ahead and create a new script. And again, guys, a lot of this is just trial and error, right? I always think of the line from the movie The Martian, if you ever seen it. It's just figuring out one problem after the next, and then maybe you'll get home, right? That's exactly what coding and scripting is. So, start with, it's small. All right, I want to get my player character to move. All right, how do we get my player character to move? Well, we got to make a script. All right, I don't know how to write the script to get them the player to move. I know I did the learning, but I can't remember what that looks like. Well, let's go to maybe Google and see, how do I get my player to move in Unity, right? And start there. And so guys, that's just how you got to be thinking of these things as you're working and diagnosing your problems. And it's just taking it a step. All right, that doesn't work. This works, and just diagnosing it one step at a time. Don't look at it as this huge overall game, this huge project, because you'll get so overwhelmed. It's one step, one problem at a time. Tip number 4, make a good game design document. Again, this is a kind of a boring one, guys, but a skill that I definitely need to improve on over my last 30 days. I definitely struggled at making good game design documents. And why this is important, guys, because when I got to coding and finishing the face value of my game and what I initially thought it would look like, I kind of got stuck from there and didn't really know how to add different mechanics, or where I should go, or what the loops, if it didn't feel right, what they should actually look like and how they should actually feel. And that can only be improved by having good game design documents, because you're going to be able to talk out your problems, talk out the game mechanics, talk out the loop, and you're going to figure out where you're going to get stuck in a lot of these. So I showed you some of what my game design documents look like, and they're really bad and not good. And this is this is one of my buddy's game design documents. This is what a good thought out game design document looks like. It has all the things you're looking for, your mechanics, your loop, the different features of the game, and it's designed and organized well, where you can come back to this and read it and not feel stuck. And this was going to help you really stay organized with your game. So game design documents, extremely important. There's a reason why AAA studios do. Tip number 3, assets and their power. Assets are great. They are extremely powerful, and they are extremely useful in helping you where you lack in your skills with your game. Especially with me, I'm not great with art and animations and just being creative at all. So having assets and being able to just go in there and get what I need is really, really cool. And I have used a lot of assets. But you have to be careful with assets. I learned something in my game jam where I downloaded an asset pack. I finished my game. It was the day for the end of the game jam, and I just wanted to add some final art, some little polish, and I downloaded an asset pack that I thought was just a little bit of art, and it completely overwrote my whole game, destroyed dang near everything, and I had to uh, spend a lot of time figuring it out, and thankfully I got it figured out. But once I got it figured out, I submitted the game. I didn't touch it anymore. I was too scared to. So be careful with assets. Read their descriptions. Read their documentation. This is another asset pack I downloaded. It's called Top Down Engine. Really, really powerful. Really, really cool. But I found out that I had to spend a lot of time learning this asset pack in itself and the scripts and how they all work with each other. And the type of game I wanted to make, a multiplayer game, it wasn't going to work with. So you got to know if your assets that you're using are going to work with the style of game you're working with. And also, I just recommend making sure to download assets at the beginning of a project. It's going to make you feel the safest. If you are going to import an asset after the fact, after you've actually started a project, make sure you read the notes. Make sure it's not going to destroy your project, because I wouldn't wish that on anybody. But assets are powerful. Tip number 2, tweaking adjustments in real time. A lot of people might laugh at me for this, especially the pros in here, but I didn't learn until probably about last week that you could adjust your settings in the inspector window as you're playing the game. And why is this important? Well, let's say you're playing with your player character, and in this case, I want to adjust how far he can go from left to right on the screen. Well, right here in the inspector, it has my clamps on the X and Y, and I can set that and change it while I'm playing the game and adjust it there, instead of having to exit out of the game, go back to that scene, go into the inspector, and manually adjust it, as you're going to see that I do here. So I have to go all the way to my battle scene, and then I have to click onto my player character, and then I have to go in and adjust those clamps, and then I'm going to have to go back to my startup scene, and then I'm going to have to press play again. And it's just going to take so much time, especially when you're making little tweaks, and you're going to be making little tweaks in your game. So this is just one example. I just wanted to give you one simple example, but really cool. Make sure that you're doing that. Make sure you're making these tweaks in your game, not exiting the game and making those tweaks in the inspector window like that. Also, just adjusting your scene. You can go into the scene view, not necessarily the game view, and adjust things that way, which again is super cool. Something I didn't learn till later in my journey. I know some people might laugh, but I thought it might be useful to somebody. My last and final tip that I learned in these 30 days is it's okay to use AI. Now, I might get some flack for this one, guys, but I will say I didn't get as far as I did in this whole month without using AI. Now, there are some caveats, and you need to be careful while using AI, and I want to share some of the things that I learned with it. You can rubber band the problem, and what I mean by that is you can ask AI, hey, I have this situation going on, and kind of what I'm showing you here on the screen is it'll send you a script, and then you'll say, hey, this isn't working now, and then it'll send you another script, and then you'll say, hey, it's not working, then it'll send you that first script it sent you, and it'll just go back and forth. So you really have to understand what the problem is, and it can get complicated. The bigger your game gets, the more scripts that you're going to have that are going to be working in conjunction of each other, et cetera, et cetera. So it's going to be harder if you don't understand what those scripts do and how they work together. It's going to be harder to diagnose the problem for ChatGPT to figure it out. So be careful with using it, but it's absolutely helped me, make my scripts. It's absolutely helped me get to where I am these past 30 days. And I know some people are going to say this might hurt more than help. I disagree. I think AI is one of those things like the internet or the calculator or just the cell phones, a million other things that have just changed humanity forever. And I just think this is one of those things that's going to be integrated into coding and game development for a long, long time, and it's here to stay. So I think if you're not using it, if you're not implementing it, you're going to be behind. But I think the people that understand what code is and how to write code is always going to have an advantage because they understand it and they understand how to diagnose problems easier, especially when your scripts get crazy and they start working. A lot of scripts start working together. So AI is powerful. Definitely use it, but just be careful. And that's the 10 tips that I learned in the last 30 days that I wish I would have known before I got started into game development. Thank you if you stuck around this long. I appreciate you watching these videos. I'm really trying to make content that applies value. I know I'm new in the game development, but I thought it would be cool to give a newer person's perspective on what I've learned and what has helped me. So I hope that somebody can take away some value from this. I'm really trying to make stuff that helps others that are getting started in the community. Also, if you could like and subscribe, please leave any comments, any feedback. I'm just getting started in this game dev journey and this YouTube journey, so any feedback is accepted and welcome. And again, I just appreciate you being here, and I appreciate you watching my video. Goodbye, and see you in the next one.